Hello everyone! Good morning! This is me, Mary Jane Ibadiga, and this morning I'm going to present my activity for this subject. So this is teaching science in elementary grades, and I'm going to present my views on the facets of science. So what do you mean by facets of science? So let's talk about a certain aspect of science. So I'm going to provide my insight and give topic and activity, and then I'm going to determine the process skills and scientific attitudes used for that certain activity. So for the part 1, this is science is a broad body of knowledge. So when you say a broad body of knowledge, this refers to a wide range of study. So since science cover a wide range of study, so this probably talks science in general. So when you say science in general, like say for example, science. So science have different branches. So it has life science, it has chemistry, it has physics, it has earth science, and etc. So say for example, when we also have to pick a topic about animals. So when you say animals, still this is a broad topic. So why a broad topic? So for you say when you say animals, so probably the kids will ask you, what kind of animals? What classification of animals? So there is always this question, what or why. So for this topic, maybe I'm going to give a reporting activity for by group. So let's say for example, I'm going to ask them to group themselves into 4, and that with that group, I'm going to give them their designated box containing different pictures of animals. So for this activity, I'm going to give them to let them identify and classify animals according to their body structure. So after that, I'm going to let them choose a representative to explain the work. So this is a work activity, so probably this will involve teamwork and collaboration. So science is a broad body of knowledge. So what are the process skills used for this activity? So the very first skills used for this activity is observing. Of course, when you are going to critique a certain topic or a certain scene, of course you have to use your senses. That's what we use in everything we do. We are using our senses. So observing is the first. So and then they have interfering, because as they observe, they also predict, or maybe this belongs to this or that belongs to that, or something like that. And they are going to collect, since after they have predicted that this belongs to that certain animals, of course they're going to collect and they're interpret that one, and then let that communicate to the class. So they have all this process skills developed during that activity. And the scientific attitudes involved in that activity are the curiosity, fascination, critical thinking, and skepticism. Why curiosity? Because as they choose, of course they have to ask what are the characteristic of this animals, why does it belong to this one. And after that curiosity, because of course they're going to discover, so they are fascinated by that curiousness. And then they also have this critical thinking, because they have to critique if that animal really belong to that. And so when they're going to critique, of course skepticism involved in that attitude. So the second part is the science is a set of skills. So why science is a set of skills? So science is a set of skill, and my own reflection or my own insights enables people to have a set of skill as they understand. Of course, they interpret, they deduce, or they conclude, or they create. They also create and communicate and express their ideas through the knowledge they have in studying science. So science is a set of skills. So for the activity, so for the title, I have the animals and their habitat, so I let them have an illustration. So I let them have a drawing, an illustration of an animal with its habitat, and describe and explain it what it does for survival. So this is an individual activity. So in this activity, science is a new set of skills. So still, children have created or have developed skills during this activity, because as they draw, of course, they have this imagination on their mind. So still they have this observing, because they have that process skills to create something what they have in their minds, and they have, so as they think, they also have to interpret and then apply it, since they are having a drawing. So they interpret it, they apply it, and then after they communicate it, because they have explained it to the class, they have shared their thoughts on what is it in their drawing. So the scientific attitude involves in that certain activities still, it has self-confidence, since they draw, and of course they use all their confidence to make a drawing out of their imagination, out of what they have observed during the past, and what they are self-confidence on expressing their thoughts to the class. And they have also this critical thinking and skepticism. Of course, when you draw, you include all the details of that certain topic. So when you say animals of their habitat, of course the kids will, though it's not what we expect, but I really think the kids will interpret their drawing on their own, and that skepticism is involved or present in their activity. So science is an intellectual activity. So when you say science as an intellectual activity, of course, science do not just give ideas, do not just thought students about the process. It also enables students or the learner to use their critical thinking to examine things and statements to the best of their knowledge. So when you say intellectual activity, this refers to how their brain works. Of course, in order to test their intellectual capacity, we have to give them different activities to determine if really they have gained something or they have learned something on what you have taught them. So for my activity or my topic, so for the classifications of animals or the animal classification, so I'm going to have a quiz B. Why quiz B? Because in a quiz B, it really involves intellectual activity, and it also measures your intellectual capacity, because this involves how the student understood, how the student comprehend the lesson, or how the student have memorized, or how those things or those learning mark in their or retain or instill in their brains. So this in quiz B involves intellectual. Quiz B is an intellectual activity which develops students' intellectual capacity. So the process skills involved in this activity and this quiz B is observing. So in observing, of course, during quiz B they have to use their senses, because they are going to, of course, listen to what is being asked to them, and they're interfering because they have to predict the answers, and then communicating because they were asked what is the answer, and then maybe if they're going to state the answer. So that is why the process skills involved in this activity is observing, interfering, and communicating. So for the scientific attitudes, since this is an intellectual activity, of course this involves critical thinking, self-confidence, determination, objectivity, and intellectual honesty. Of course, you cannot cheat during quiz B. And during quiz B, you really have to make your mind work really hard. Though not that hard, maybe you just have to comprehend what is being asked, because sometimes the questions are very logical and they get you in that just one word, and you have to think thoroughly. So you also have this objectivity to determine the exact, or to determine, or to get the exact answer. So for the part 4, a science as a social activity. So as much as science give ideas, enables the child or the learners to have an intellectual capacity, science also allows the learners to socialize and collaborate with one another, with their classmates. And that way they can have a great connection to each and every one. So for this activity, I'm going to give them a role play activity. So why a role play activity? Because in this activity, of course, this involves a collaboration, a teamwork to create a plot, or what they would do. So the topic that's very suitable for that role play is, I guess, the human evolution. So for the human evolution, of course, this is very critical role play, because you can just act even without communicating. You just have to show what those early humans or ancient men doing during that stages. So I will have to group them into 5, and in a minimum of 2 minutes play, I want them to reenact and characterize the behavior of the early humans during that human evolution. So maybe during that activity, of course, they have this process of observing and because of course they have to predict that during their observation, as they read, as they research of the behavior of the characteristic of the early human, of course they have formulated ideas in their minds. So they have used the interfering and collecting data and also communicating, because they made the role play as a group. And when they execute the play, of course it talks about applying the knowledge they have gathered during the making of that role play. So the scientific attitudes involved are open-mindedness. Of course, they have to give each and every one of their ideas, their creativity, their critical thinking. Of course, some of the details of that role play should be included, so they have to really think critically what should be present during the play. And also patience. Of course, it's not easy to act as an ape, just like, and also a self-confidence. So executing that certain role with your utmost self-confidence is really overwhelming and so proud to look. So science is a problem solving. So when you say science is a problem solving, so science develops or encourages learners' curiosity and provides solutions to it. Of course, as a child, children or learners really have different curiosity. They tend to ask almost all of the happenings in their surrounding. Why is it like that? Why is it like this? Something like that. So for this problem solving, so for the activity very suitable for problem solving is, let's say for example, if we're going to have a topic, plants and their needs, of course, children may have asked, can a plant grow without just one of the needs of the plant? Just like for example, can a plant grow a week without sunlight? So of course, you as a teacher, you have going to encourage them. Okay, let's try. Let's see if the plants survive without sunlight than 1 week. So for that activity, the process skills involves are of course observing. So during the activity, when you hide the plants from sunlight, of course you have to observe every day for during the whole week what happened to the plant. Of course, you have to note that one interfering. Maybe, of course, you have to predict. Maybe the plants will not grow, or maybe the plants will grow, but maybe it's not that it will not look as alive as it is having sunlight. So you also have to interpret data, and you have to communicate and apply. So scientific attitude also that involves in that problem solving is of course a critical thinking and open-mindedness. Patience, of course, you have to wait for 1 week, so really have patience, and for recording the improvement or the progress when you hide the plant for 1 week away from sunlight. And of course, humility. You have to be honest with your observation, and then scientific intuitive. So what do you mean by scientific intuitive? So of course you have predicted, you have this gut feeling that maybe this plant will still survive, but maybe it will have a little difference, but still it will survive. So at least you have proven that plants, those it can still be alive without sunlight, but still plants needed it because that will make the plants more appealing, or more, because plants is just also like human, they have needs, so we have to provide that one to the plants. And of course you have, at least your problem is being solved by experimenting or by discovering that plants can still live without sunlight. So science is a career. So science is a career, provides education, intervention, and ideas, and facts and life. So as a career, science did everything to human. Science did everything to give human a better life, a suitable environment, a better way of living our life. So that's what science as a career gives. It also gives us understanding about everything that happens around us. So science as a career give us thorough or the factual information regarding what was happening around the world. So let's say for example, so science as a career for our topic as healthy eating habits. So we have, maybe I'm going to give them an oral recitation. So since science as a career, so maybe the activity will something that will educate children. So I'm going to let them assume themselves. I'm going to let them assume themselves as a nutritionist and educate their fellow children, their fellow learners through song, spoken poetry, or poem, and about healthy eating habits. So in that way, they could also have this like an entertaining or very catchy, or something like in their song or in their composition, they maybe have this unique or overwhelming words that would persuade their classmate, that would persuade somebody to eat something healthy. So this activity is very suitable for this aspect of science, since science is a career. So during the skills, during the oral recitation, or during the persuasion, or during the execution of their poems or of their compositions, of course, they have, during the making of that, they have this observing and interpreting data. So on what they have learned, to the topic, to the lesson that you have discussed, of course they have interpreted it, and then they collected, and they also have to apply, and then they communicate that to the class. For the scientific involves, of course, this involves critical thinking. They also have the confidence during the execution or during the recitation. They also have this creativity. Creativity for when you write a poem or you write a composition, of course, you use your creativity, you use your mind, having that creativity to make convincing word, convincing stories, convincing statements in order for your listener to agree with you. And of course, intellectual honesty. Of course, you have to be honest what would be the result if you're not going to eat healthy. So what will be the result if you're going to eat healthy? And of course, perseverance to deliver the speech, to deliver the composition. So science is a global human endeavor. So when you say science is a global and human endeavor, this talks about all the things that human does in order to make our world better. In order using science in order to make our world a better place to live in. So there are many things from technologies, from food production, from animal domestication, everything. So these are all the products of human endeavors for human hardships. So for my insights of this, yes, for those my insights. So science innovates for humans' life betterment as well as that of the universe. Because of science, those person really made different move in order to discover the fullest potential that human could have in this planet without destroying its like the animals or the plants or the environment. So since science really did many things for us humans to have a better life, maybe for my topic I'm going to lesson or tackle about taking care of our environment. So why taking care of our environment? Because as of today, we really have different technologies. We almost have everything. Our world is like more on technology, and we tend to forget that Earth, our planet, needs cultivation. We need to provide something, or we need to return what we take from them. So since our plants have been denumbered because there are many illegal loggers, there are many phenomena happen because of that, because of our abusive acts in this planet. So I would suggest to taking care of the environment. So this is one way of human endeavor, or this is one way of human initiative to make our place a better for living. So when you say taking care of the environment, just like when you are going to give your children, we give your pupils or your learners or an activity, just like tree planting. So this probably will be an individual activity. Sorry for for my typo. It's individual activity. So if you're going to give them this tree planting activity, of course, the kids will have reflection that, or they may tend to ask, why do we have to do this? Why do we have to make, or why do we have to plant trees? So they may tend to ask that once. So this activity is very suitable for them because tree planting is one way of human initiative, human endeavor to make our planet a better, or to make our planet something better to live on for our future generations, right? So for the activity, of course, we have tree planting, and this will be the individual task. So individually bring bolos and bamboos. Sorry if I missed L in my instruction, and bamboo sticks for our tree planting. So that activity must be very entertaining or must be very productive for the kids or for their learning. So of course, the process skills involved during the tree planting are first observing. Of course, they have to observe since they listen to your explanation about why do we need to plant trees, why do we need to cultivate our planet Earth. And then they will have communicating because they may tend to ask, they may tend to gather facts, or they may tend to ask their moms about what are the importance, or you as a teacher, what are the importance of the tree planting, and then the applying also, because as you plant, of course, you have planted it, so you are the one applying, or you are the one executing the tree planting, and that makes the process skills applied in that activity. And the scientific attitudes applied in that activity are: first, ethics, because you're able to reflect on what had happened to our planet Earth. We have the reflection, we have the empathy for human condition, we have the love, we have the initiation to think of what will be our move in order to lessen this pollution, or in order to lessen the effect of the technologies and the factories we have in our planet. And of course, we also have the creativity. So we have this creativity because, of course, when during the planting, the kids will have to put a bamboo sticks in it, and that involves creativity in putting that sticks. So science is a process. So this is the last part. This is the part 8. Science is a process. So when you say science is a process, so of course, during almost everything in our endeavors, in our daily activity, it involves a process. It involves a chronological order. It involves a step-by-step process. So when you wake up, you stretch, you fold your bed, you take a bath, something like that. So even in our daily lives involves process. So for a lesson, for my reflection, science provide a chronological order, scenario showing the process of how things work, or how things being done. When we cook, we have the process. When we wash our clothes, we have this process. When we make a note, when we write essays, of course, they have the process. They have the certain format. That's part of the process, right? So for my activity, so I will make an activity that is worth for the kids, that will involve them, the first hand activity for them, that will make them be engaged in the activity. So for my topic, so how a plant grows from the seeds. So this is a reporting as well as an experiment. So for the instruction, closely observe the seed you planted yesterday. So let's assume that I have given them the activity to plant seeds. So let's assume that it was yesterday. So and check for its changes every day. So since they planted it yesterday, so every day they have to check if there is a changes. So and then they are going to record it on their paper, and expect them to report their observation. That's for the next week. So that in this activity, this involves the very first, of course, observing and interpreting data. Of course, as they write or the record the progress of the plant or the seed, the progress of the seeds from when we saw it, and communicating. Of course, as they report, they have communicated. They use communication. So communication process skills is involved. And for the scientific attitudes, we have patience, we have humility. Why patience? Because that is 1 week, that is 4 days, I guess. So they have to wait for the progress to boom in order for them to report what are the changes from seed until it grows to a plant. And the intellectual honesty, of course, they have to be honest. What happened to the seed? Because there are tendency that maybe the seed will not grow as they have expected it, because not seeds are good seeds. There are seeds that it fails because maybe it lacks certain thing that a seed needs, like for air or water or something, and then when they report it to the class, when they have this reporting, of course they have self-confidence. So self-confidence takes everything. It takes knowledge, it takes gut, it takes encouragement. So that is self-confidence. So thank you. That is all for my discussion. So my reflection for this general activity is that at first I was really confused on what to do, but then as I read and read and read, I came up with that idea that maybe I have to assume that this will be the aspect of science and this is what I'm going to do. So the activity was very challenging. It was worth researching, worth studying, everything. And I just hope that my activity, or based from my interpretation of this activity, is correct. Thank you for listening, everyone. Thank you for the patience for listening for my report.